Hey, hi everyone. So Ankit Rao this side, a budding cloud and cloud security enthusiast, and today I'll be talking about securing Azure Cosmos database using Microsoft Defender. I'd like to thank the Azure Cosmos database conference team for providing me with this opportunity to talk, and I hope my session adds a little value to all the attendees listening. So before moving ahead, I like to talk about the motivation behind talking about security aspects of cloud, right? So public cloud adoption is on the rise, and with that, the global cloud security market is expected to grow from USD 5 billion in 2016 to a whopping 13 billion by 2022. With this, there is still a lack of awareness about cloud security among organizations and also a fear of losing their data confidentiality. Further, the biggest identified cloud threats occur mostly due to the misconfiguration of cloud platforms, as per this study by the MarketWatch team, right? So when we talk about the misconfiguration, right? So when you talk about the misconfiguration, the configuration aspects of the cloud services that you are using lies entirely within the control of the end user, that is us. So if we are using any cloud service and if we just follow some minimal steps configuring the cloud services in a better way, following the best practices, we can avoid a lot of security threats, right? So that is what motivates me to constantly talk about or share my little knowledge that I have gained over the years about the security aspects of things. And with the same energy, today I'll be talking about the security aspects of Azure Cosmos database, right? The agenda is quite clear and crisp. So we'll have a one slider overview of Cosmos database because I'm assuming there will be a lot of speakers who will cover the actual use cases of Cosmos database. We'll talk about cloud security in general and why it is a shared responsibility model. We'll talk about the Microsoft Defender and how it is being used or how it can be used for implementing security best practices in Cosmos database. We'll talk about a few security best practices that can be implemented, and the viewers all around can at least get started on Cosmos database security. We'll have a short demo. We'll talk about some limitations that come within the Microsoft Defender for now, and we'll talk about the pricing for Microsoft Defender. So to get started, here is a brief overview of Cosmos database. So I'll explain a one-liner or maybe the best definition that has been provided about Cosmos database by Microsoft itself, and I'll quote them here that Microsoft Azure Cosmos database, right? So it is a highly scalable, globally available and a NoSQL database which is provided as a PaaS service by Microsoft Azure. This is what we'll talk about it. We'll keep this short and we'll quickly move towards the security aspects of Cosmos database. Before moving towards Cosmos database security, we'll talk what cloud security is in general, right? So cloud security refers to the technologies, policies, controls, and services that protect cloud data, applications, and infrastructure from threats. Cloud security is a shared responsibility model, and the diagram besides shows how your responsibility decreases with a PaaS provider like the Cosmos database. So before actually going into the diagram, I'll maybe give a very simple use case through which we can compare a shared responsibility model. So let's take an example of a startup who has rented an office space in a big premises, a big building that you have, right? So in such a case, the security, the overall security of the building, the external security, the security in the parking, and everything else comes as a bundled package to the startup who has leased a space there. They don't need to spend extra or additional value there to take care of the external security or aspects, because the premises will come with their own security team and the security guards and whatnot. But when you talk about the office space that they have rented, so they are the ones who need to control which person or whoever who can enter their office inside the office. So basically, offices have a access monitoring device attached to their doors, and only employees or maybe only their genuine employees who have the tags or maybe a fingerprint scanner or maybe whoever are authorized employees can enter the office. Further, offices or maybe all the organizations provide laptops to their workers, right? So only authorized persons can access a specific set of hardware as well. So this is a very perfect example of a shared responsibility model, wherein the responsibility of the security is shared by the startup in for their office, whereas the external security aspect is being shared by the provider, the lease provider, or maybe the office space provider that we have in place here. So comparing it with cloud security as well. So here the physical security, that is the security of the servers where your actual, these databases or maybe VMs are running on, the host infrastructure, the patching that is involved on these servers are taken care of by the cloud service providers. Whereas what we need to do, we need to make sure that the identity and access management on the services that we use. So in this case, today we are talking about Cosmos databases. So basically the access control on Cosmos database, who can access it, the endpoint protection, the application level controls, and the data classification, right? So all these things need to be taken care of by us. So I hope this simple analogy of comparing it with a startup or maybe a organization renting a office space and the cloud security helps the attendees understand the cloud security in a better way and how cloud security is a shared responsibility model, right? So moving ahead, we'll talk now about Microsoft Defender for Cosmos database. So when we talk about cloud security, right, so not everyone is aware of what are actually the best practices. We'll need some help, we'll need some readings as to what actually we can do to implement cloud security. That is where Microsoft Defender comes in, right? So Microsoft Defender provides an extra layer of security intelligence that detects unusual and potentially harmful attempts to access or exploit the Azure Cosmos database accounts. This layer of protection allows you to address threats even without being a security expert, right? And integrate them with the central security monitoring systems. Security alerts are triggered when anomalies in activity occur. So whenever your Cosmos database is being accessed from unusual locations, or there are some unusual data extraction activities that the defender detects, it will immediately trigger alert, which you can see on the Azure portal, or you can even integrate with your notification systems, wherein your security teams will be notified when these activities occur. Further, Defender will also provide a centralized view with respect to the security posture of the Cosmos database, which helps us implement security best practices. So what is the security posture of the Cosmos database, right? So when I said, implementing security is like implementing best practices or best configuration while you create Azure services or any service in place, right? So the security posture of Cosmos database will tell you that which security best practice is missing from the configuration of Cosmos database, and which, and it will also provide you with the steps that how you can implement those steps or maybe remediate those remediate those threats that are currently in place, and what steps you can take to actually fix those issues or fix those configuration errors, right? So this is how helpful Microsoft Defender is. This is a centralized view of the Microsoft Defender for cloud. Here we have the security alerts section open, which has some sample alerts for Cosmos database. We'll deep dive into these alerts once we are into the demo section. But before that, let us understand some top security best practices that you can implement while creating a Cosmos database, and help improve your security posture for the Cosmos database that you are using. The first and the foremost, the most important security best practice that you can implement is configuring the network security and firewall settings for your Cosmos. Right? So using an IP firewall is the first layer of protection to secure your database. That's a valid point. Further, now this is very simple configuration that Azure Cosmos database supports, and it supports a policy-driven IP-based access control for inbound firewall supports. Using this, you can control which sources can actually access your Cosmos database, right? So to set up this, you just need to navigate to the firewall and virtual network section under the settings tab. Here, you just need to select the selected networks tab. You can either add a new virtual network or an existing virtual network through which the Cosmos database can be accessed, or you can also specify some IP addresses through which the Cosmos database can be accessed. and you just click save, and your network configuration is applied to it. So whenever a user from a location other than the one specified here tries to access the database, they will be thrown an error saying that they are unauthorized and can't access the database. A simple enough configuration setting, right, which is very easy to implement too, and which will help us block, block the access of Cosmos database from untrusted sources or unwanted sources, right? Moving ahead, so the second most important security practice that can be implemented is replication of the data, right? So global replication lets you scale globally, provide low latency access around the world, right? So it provides a low latency access to your data around the world, which means that if your customer is located in multiple regions across the globe, and if you have this data replication enabled, what you can do is you can set up your load balancer or whatever your public endpoints are there in such a way that the data is retrieved from the lowest latency regions for your customers, so that they face the lowest retrieval time of data. So this is one maybe you can say feature, or maybe the advantage of implementing the global replication. But with respect to the security, right? So global replication ensures data protection against regional failures, right? So what are regional failures? So you may have noticed on some days, maybe this rarely happens, but on some days a specific region is down, and this is not your or maybe the user's fault. It maybe is some downtime is caused to some regions of Azure due to some mishappening. Again, we can't talk about what is happening, but due to some reason or the other, some regions go down. So take an example that your database, or currently your Cosmos database, is deployed in the US East region, and it goes down due to some reason, right? So your application is down because there is no database present, the region is down, and your end users are facing a downtime basically. But take a scenario where you have implemented the data replication. You have set up your data replication in multiple regions. In that case, what will happen is, even if US East go down and you have set up replication in say US West or any other region, the automatic failover will take place, and your end users or the users of your applications will be fetching data from the replicated region, and there will be minimal downtime to your end users, right? So this protects us against the regional failures. And how to enable it? Again, it's a very simple setting. You just need to navigate to the replicate data globally section under settings. You just need to select which regions you want to replicate the data. You can select the automatic failover feature as well, and just hit save, and your data will be replicated globally accordingly, right? Moving ahead, the other important aspect now again is backup and restore. So backing up database is basically storing copies, pointing in time restores of your database, so that if due to some reason your database is deleted, you have your backups and restores in place, which you can restore as and when required, and again all your data is back up without any downtime. To implement this setting again, it's very simple. So just need to navigate to the backup and restore section under settings. Here you can select the backup interval and the backup retention. So basically at what interval you need to back up your data. So by default, Azure provides a backup interval of 4 hours, and the backup retention, meaning how many copies of your data you want to retain. So by default, again, Azure provides a data retention copies of 2. You can customize these intervals and the retention numbers as per your requirements, and just hit save, and your backup and restore process will be in place. Very simple again, and this will help us provide various scenarios, or maybe which will help us overcome various accidental scenarios, like there are some delete operations within containers, maybe entire container Cosmos DB containers get deleted, or you have to restore or replicate data into some other regions, is when this backup and restore will come in place, or will help you implement these things. Moving ahead, now we'll talk about the key rotation aspect. So we'll talk about keys first. So what are keys? So when you are accessing your database through the application, we use some keys, some access keys to access the database. Now these keys are some GUIDs that are generated runtime during the Cosmos DB creation, and this set of credentials are used to access your database from the application. Now, assume a scenario where these keys get compromised, so that, if these keys get compromised, there is a high chance that the attacker can easily access the database. That is where key rotation comes into picture. So rotating keys periodically significantly reduces the chances that a compromised set of access keys can be used without your knowledge to access the database. Right? So this doesn't guarantee that there is no data breach, but at least minimizes the impact. So again, going back to the scenario that you had, so assume that the keys got compromised, but since you have the rotation policy in place, the older keys will be absolute in a certain amount of time, and they'll be rendered useless because they can't do anything now, since the keys have been rotated and there are a new set of keys that are to be used to access the database. So to set up that, you need to go to the key section under settings, and under the menu bar for each key, you can use the regenerate primary key option. Now, a very important point to take care here is that whenever you are regenerating key or basically rotating your keys, you need to make sure that wherever these keys are being used in your application setup, in your DevOps pipelines, or anywhere, you just need to make sure that these keys are automatically or maybe duly replaced to avoid any downtime or application failures. Okay. Moving ahead with the last and the most basic security best practice, which is not related only to Cosmos DB, but you can implement it across all the resources or services that you're using in Azure, is using the resource lock. So resource lock prevents users in your organization from accidentally deleting or modifying critical resources. The lock basically overrides any permissions the users may have, right? So what is the significance of a lock here is that even if, we'll again take a similar example, right? So you created a document DB and you created a delete lock on it. Now so suppose I am a user in the subscription, and I am an admin user. So I have admin privileges on that account. So even I can't delete the Cosmos database without deleting the lock, because the lock is overriding all my permissions, right? So this is how the lock prevents any accidental deletion and helps us, retain or maybe save our Cosmos database from any such mishappening. So these were some basic cloud security or Cosmos DB security best practices that you can implement and basically get started on a journey of securing the Cosmos database, right? So I hope these security best practices at least act as a stepping stone for everyone who will be interested in exploring the security aspects henceforth, right? Now we'll move ahead to the very interesting aspect of our presentation, that is the demo, right? So we'll switch the screens, we'll move to the Azure portal. Now here I have created two Cosmos databases. So one Cosmos database will have all the security best practices followed, right? So if I just navigate to the second database, I'll go to maybe all the settings that we covered now. So we talked about replication of data globally. We talked about backup and restore. We talked about firewall and virtual networks, right? We talked about keys and we talked about locks. So very easily accessible configuration settings, which you can even automate through your automation template. Or if you are new to this and you want to just get started, you can come to the portal and easily update these settings, right? So when I said we have two Cosmos databases here, so for one Cosmos database, we have made sure that it allows access only from selected networks, whereas for the other database that we have, the demo database, we are allowing access to this database from all networks, right? So the scenario here is one of our database is following a security best practice, whereas the other database is not following the security best practice. Okay, this is the scenario that you have, and now we'll navigate to the Microsoft Defender, and how Microsoft Defender will help us identify this security best practice not being followed. Before that, we'll have to set up a basic you will have to implement a basic setting so that the Cosmos Defender will scan our Cosmos database for security, right, and implement all the security alerts and provide us with recommendations as well. So we navigate to the Microsoft Defender for Cloud, through the search bar, or maybe if you have pinned it to the navigation pane, that's where you can go to or navigate to it from. So setting up Microsoft Defender for Cosmos database, you just need to navigate to the environment settings under the management blade. Here you need to select the subscription that is in picture. So here, this is the subscription that I'm currently using. You need to, under the Defender plans section, you need to go to database and select types. Here, when you scroll down, you'll see Azure Cosmos DB preview. You just need to click on, or maybe toggle this switch to on, and continue and save the setting. This is, as simple as this. So this is how you can set up Microsoft Defender for Cosmos database, right? Once this is set up, Microsoft Defender will scan your Cosmos database for security misconfigurations. And as mentioned earlier, it will also provide alerts on various anomalies detected, like access from untrusted sources, or maybe a very unusual activity during data retrieval, right? We'll go through that now. So first, we'll talk about the security misconfiguration that we have set up currently. We'll navigate to the security posture tab under cloud security, and we'll click on the view recommendation for our subscription. Under recommendations, you will find various recommendations for your subscription. So for now, we'll only talk about Cosmos database. So we'll navigate to the Cosmos database recommendation. So if you see here, we have one recommendation. So if you just scroll down and just navigate through the statuses that we have in place here. So the status for this recommendation states unhealthy. So unhealthy meaning we have some database in our account which is not following this security best practice. Okay, so we'll navigate to that security recommendation. And what does that security recommendation says? So it says that Azure Cosmos database accounts should have firewall rules, right? It will provide you a very detailed view. So it will tell you that what is the severity of this security misconfiguration. Now severity denotes how risky this could be for your Cosmos database. So the severity here has been determined as medium. It will provide you with the description of what firewall rules are and how, or maybe what is their significance. It will provide you with the remediation steps as well, that how you can configure the the network firewall rules. So as you see here, you just need to go to the firewall and network options under the Cosmos DB settings. You just need to select the selected networks as we talked about earlier, and add the IP addresses or ranges that you want to follow, right? A very detailed view. Then it will also provide you with a view about the unhealthy and healthy resources. So as we talked about earlier, right? So we had two Cosmos databases in the subscription, one of which was healthy. So it shows that this one was healthy, whereas one is unhealthy, meaning this is not following a security best practice, right? Here, there are other options available as well. So you can take according actions on this database. You can trigger a logic app. Now, a logic app can be anything. You can trigger a PowerShell script, which will basically enable the security configuration for you, or you can even exempt this, security finding for this database. So in cases where it is a necessity for your application that the Cosmos database is public, in that case you can exempt your findings so that your security score is not impacted because of this database. So this is a very basic flow of how the Microsoft Defender for Cosmos databases talks about recommendation, tells us recommendation about the security misconfigurations for the account, and helps us identify which are the unhealthy resources in our account. Right. So this again is very simple to understand, and anyone even without a security background can understand these findings and go ahead and fix those, right? Further, as mentioned earlier, it also provides us with the security alerts, right? So we'll go through one of the security alert. So there are a few sample alerts that have been generated. So maybe we'll talk about this SQL injection attempt, right? So this alert will be triggered whenever there is an SQL injection attempt on your Cosmos database. You'll have a detailed alert description that what actually happened, what are the potential causes, what are the investigation steps, and what database it actually occurred on, and also the detailed container name on which container under the database that SQL injection attack occurred, right? It will also provide the top anomalous queries that were used. It will talk about the IP source from where the attack was happened, right? And it can also, help us take next actions, right? Mitigating the threat, prevent future attacks by implementing some security recommendations it provides. It can also trigger automated responses. So as mentioned earlier, here also we can trigger a logic app to basically, send out a automated response for such type of an alert. You can suppress these alerts as well. You can create suppression rules, and you can notify your security team. So you can configure an email. So whenever this alerts get triggered the next time, your security team will also get the notification. So you can configure one or more email addresses here, so that all the monitoring alerts that have been generated by Defender for Cosmos database are reaching your security team, right? This was a short demo that we have in place here. We'll move back to our slide now. And now we'll talk about the limitations of Defender. So Microsoft Defender, as you saw, is currently in preview mode for Cosmos database. Now, because of this, there is still a good room for improvement around the coverage of security best practices. So security best practices meaning the recommendations that we saw. So currently, Defender is providing us just with 2 or 3 recommendations. So there is still a good room for improvement there. Further, the alert mechanism is expected to improve over time. So, Defender will mature more and more on the basis of more and more, activity, or maybe the alerts that it is generating. More and more data it has, more and more the ML algorithm that the Defender uses will become robust and stable and provide us with more clear alerts or maybe detailed alerts as well, right? Talking about the pricing aspect, so Microsoft Defender for Cosmos DB being preview is currently free. So, whoever is getting inspired by this talk of mine can just go ahead and try out this Cosmos DB Defender, Microsoft Defender for Cosmos DB free for now, and they can explore the findings that are getting generated for Cosmos database. For references, I have used the detailed documentation that has been provided by Microsoft. So there is a very detailed documentation which talks about security in Azure Cosmos database. And also there is a good documentation around Microsoft Defender for Cosmos database. For any questions that you may have, you can connect with me on my Twitter or LinkedIn, and feel free to DM me, and I'm happy to answer all your queries. In the end, I would again like to thank the Cosmos DB conference team a lot for this opportunity, and I again hope and pray that I am motivated at least a few attendees to try and test this out and help secure your Cosmos databases that you may have. Thank you again.